Good evening, welcome to another edition of the Gersnet Podcast, the independent Rangers podcast by fans for fans, where all the content is absolutely free. Coming to you in association with Forrest Precision Engineering. I'm your host tonight, Brian Archer, and as always, we'd encourage you to get onto the Gersnet website and check out our forums for all your latest Rangers news and discussion. We're live tonight on the YouTube channel, and we'd ask that you continue to share the pod on social media, spread the word, and please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Before I introduce my guest for tonight, I need to give another mention to our partners over at Forrest Precision Engineering. They're a Glasgow-based engineering company who have been a big commercial supporter of Rangers for a number of years, and we're delighted to have them supporting the podcast. If you want more information about them, please visit their website at www.forestprecisioneng.com. They also have a stunning executive lounge in the Ibrox main stand, and for more information on that, email the club at hospitality@rangers.co.uk. Right, now to bring in my guest, joining me tonight is Stewart Weir. Stewart, how you doing?
Look for the mute button. It's not the one I normally use, usually the one on here. I'm doing well, thank you. Yes, I have to say I'm still trying to absorb or take in what happened on Wednesday night. Good bits and bad bits, let's say.
Yeah, I'm the same, to be honest. I've still not quite got over it, to be honest. Yeah, but hopefully tonight will be a bit of a therapy session. But yeah, there's a lot to get into, so we'll just dive straight into it. And I think probably the only place to start is the team lineups. When that team came out, Stuart, were you as surprised and disappointed as everyone else seemed to be?
I like the way you're surprised and disappointed. Shocked and horrified would be another kind of description. There was a feeling of deja vu, that we'd seen this before somewhere and couldn't quite put our finger on it. But yeah, I was surprised. It just didn't look right and didn't feel right. Although, 6 minutes into the game, you're 1-0 up, and you're thinking to yourself, maybe the manager sees something here that us novices don't see. But I have to say, by about 26 minutes and 46 minutes, it was looking a bit different. It was it started well, and then just went on a slippery slope of being, totally average, and then dropping right off the scale and becoming almost predictable about what was going to happen.
Yeah, as you say, we did get the early goal. Now, I was on the pod after the 0-0 draw with Hibs. I think that was the last away game. I was on with John, and I kind of complained that we don't start games well enough. We never come out the blocks flying and get an early goal. Now, we did that against Motherwell, but we just seemed to completely retreat afterwards. It was almost like we got the early goal and we just handed the initiative back to Motherwell. And to be honest, we were lucky not to concede in the first half. Is it a concern for you how that even when we do get that early goal, we can't even seem to capitalise on that and go on and really dominate games?
Yeah, I mean, the concern is they get the early goal, and I don't know whether it's attitude or whether it's confidence or maybe a bit of both. But I think this team actually believes it's better than it actually is. They're not in a position to score a goal after 6 minutes and say, that's it, job done. There are very few Rangers teams that I can remember, watching, that could score a goal and you would say, right, it's now going to be down to the opposition to come up with something better to beat them or to get a goal back in the game. You can remember flashes in terms of when Gerrard was the manager, certainly Walter Smith during his time, Souness when he first came in. It was, sometimes it was one goal was always going to be enough, because defensively Rangers were so competent and so compact. But this team I think it has to be down to attitude. They got a goal in front and they think it's job done. I think they completely underestimated just how well Motherwell are playing and the capabilities and abilities of this Motherwell team. This Motherwell team fancied their chances the other night. If anything, the goal for Rangers came at the wrong time. It gave them a false sense of security, but it gave Motherwell plenty of time to have a go back at Rangers and get an equaliser. And as you say, they had chances in the first half where if they'd taken them or, they had even managed just to get a toehold in the game. I think the second half could have been a long and hazardous one for Rangers. It transpired. They still managed to get in it to break a goal to the good. But they just seem to sit back and invite Motherwell to come on to them. And again, as I said earlier, I don't think this Rangers side are good enough to be able to do that.
Do you think it's a experience thing? Just when I hear you talk there about, Walter Smith's team and Gerrard's team, particularly the team that went on to win the league, when they went one goal up, you kind of knew, they were good enough to be able to hold on to it if they had to. This team is a very young team. It's got a lot of lone players in it, a lot of players that haven't been over the course, that don't know what a title race is almost feels like, don't know that pressure, haven't dealt with that pressure. Certainly when Gerrard's team won the league, we had players like Alan McGregor, like Stephen Davis, who'd been over the course, who knew how to deal with that, who could pass that on to other players that hadn't. Do you think that's what we're lacking just now?
The worrying thing for me is you've got three players in your defence, Butland, Suter and Tavernier. I don't know how much more experience he would actually require to be able to coax and cajole those around them to play in a certain manner and a certain style. Those are the kind of guys, fun enough, that's why you get a captaincy, it's for leadership. And I think Rangers are badly lacking in any kind of leadership. There's guys taking you on. You've seen Raskin, taking on a kind of leadership role. I think he should be concentrating on doing his own job first and foremost and leaving the leadership to maybe other people. So in that respect, I'm disappointed. Not surprised, just disappointed again.
Yeah, back to the on field of that first half. I can't remember what comes first, but we'll talk about both incidents. Firstly, the Chermiti chance where he sort of threw one-on-one with the goalkeeper and he kind of takes it like a striker that's completely short of confidence, where he just kind of hits and hopes. He hits it straight down the middle and just hopes that he can somehow get it past the goalkeeper rather than calmly slotting it to either side where there's plenty of space. It's the classic sign of a striker that's completely, gone in terms of confidence. Now, obviously, he got his 2 goals at Parkhead. That kind of bought him a fair bit of credit with his support. I think we all hoped that this is the start of something. This is the turning point. Maybe he can go on and kick on and really show us what he's capable of. Have we now got enough evidence to suggest that was potentially an outlier and he's just not the goal scoring striker that's going to fire you to a title?
I think the goals against Celtic, that was an exception and not the norm. You were saying he looked like a striker out of confidence. Actually, if you look at it, he looked like a centre-back who'd been upfield, had managed to beat the offside trap and suddenly found himself one-on-one with the goalkeeper and just decided to hit and hope. There was absolutely no composure there whatsoever, that he actually looked as if he knew what he was doing. And if you actually look at it from behind the goal, he has got 2 sides of the goalkeeper that he could actually put the ball in. The goalkeeper is bang centre, bang square onto him. He's got 2 sides. Pick a side. Even if he picked a side and hit and hope, there's a chance he'd get it on target and actually score. But they just hit it right down the middle. That is novice stuff. The goalkeeper, he could be complimented for making the save, but he didn't need to do hellish much to actually, convince the striker this was a good place to go. Just hit it straight at me. And it's another opportunity missed. And I've heard and I've read and I've spoken to guys who, after those two goals against Celtic, it's almost as if, there's a player in there. But I still don't see it. Maybe it was wishful thinking. Those goals would actually, be the making of them, and you might actually see a real striker. But Rangers strikers historically are judged on how many goals they score. They're expected to score goals. You don't buy strikers, or strikers haven't been welcomed to Ibrox on the basis, he makes good runs, or he holds the ball up well, or he's a nuisance in the opposition box. If you do all of those things, the end product is you should be scoring goals, and this guy just doesn't have it. I mean, I've said it before. Whoever did the video or the DVD of this guy's highlights package should be in line for a BAFTA. I mean, seriously, it's one of the best bit of editing you would ever see. He looks nothing like a striker. And speak to one or two actual players, and one Rangers player in particular. I mean, he's utterly baffled because for weeks, months even, he's been saying he just does not see anything within his play that would suggest there is the makings of a striker. Even if it was somebody who was lacking experience, even if it was somebody who was still coming through the ranks, even if it was somebody you take a punt on based on potential rather than being the finished article, he just does not see anything. And, I would say he's not alone probably in that. It was the chances he gives up are frustrating, but the frustration now is giving way to the fact that the chances he's given up are now going to be costly. And I think a lot of people, when they saw him actually getting, the starting berth and leading the line in deepest, darkest Lanarkshire on Wednesday night, just feared the worst. And after that miss, they were absolutely right to do so.
Yeah. Another incident in the first half involving Gersnet, it was a claim for a penalty. Now, I can't remember if it was a corner or a free kick or how the ball came into the box, but the ball was slided in. He was in the vicinity and going up for it, and the Motherwell player just seemed to come right through the back of him. Now, it didn't seem to particularly get looked at by VAR. The Sky didn't seem particularly interested in showing too many replays of it or even having a discussion about whether it warranted a penalty. But I don't know about you, but I thought it was a stonewall penalty.
Listen, you could rewind every match, and there's 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 incidents that could have been fouls, could have been penalties, could have been yellow cards, could have been red cards. It's where you're at with Scottish football. If you don't get something, don't be surprised. The official are officiating, and the officials in Scotland are rank poor, rank rotten. It's why Scottish officials don't get to go to big parties like things called World Cups, because they are so absolute crap, garbage. And not only can they not spot things at a time, when there's a collective of them all looking at television screens, they can't spot things either. So what the hell are they actually looking at? Unfortunately, we're in a situation where if you get a penalty or a decision for or against, it's almost in spite of the officials being there rather than because the officials are there.
Yeah, definitely. The half time comes. We managed to get to half time 1-0 up, which when it got to kind of the 25th minute, I was fearing the worst. To be honest, I was thinking I'll take half time right now at that point. But we did manage to get to half time without conceding. I kind of expected him to make some changes. He's done it. He's got previous for bringing the changes at half time. So I was kind of surprised that we didn't see Nadiri or maybe even Romans. I thought he would have been a shout to go on at half time. But were you surprised not to see any subs at half time?
I was, but then again, I've been surprised several times over this season not seeing changes at different times. And for me, the thing that makes it, compounds the lack of decision making is that, I think it was on the hour mark they made the first substitution, and then there's just a flood of substitutes, almost like, right, we've worked out how to use this board so we can put it up and show people's numbers. Now we're just going to flood the team with substitutes. Okay, some guys might be a wee bit fatigued, some guys tired. I mean, tactically, he didn't really tweak with it that much. It was just almost like like for like. The difference would be that in terms of the substitutions, I think when you make that many substitutions over a period of time, and it's condensed, I think it takes time for you to settle the team back down again. The fact it was like, so many substitutions all coming at the same time, it just seemed to confuse the issue of what people were actually being asked to do and actually how they were going to cover for the people they were actually replacing. And, listen, Walter Smith used to get harangued for not making substitutions at the right time, and even Gerrard got it as well of late. Giovanni Van Bronckhorst was questioned constantly about substitutions. It's down to what the manager actually sees, but when there's like 5,000 Rangers fans there who all see something very specific, like somebody's tired or somebody just isn't having a good game, you'd think the manager would actually tie into that and actually see something not dissimilar, rather than just flying off at a tangent in his own and doing his own thing. And I think that's where the frustration is coming out with Rangers fans. They see things that should be corrected or could be fixed, and the substitutions and the replacements to actually do that are just not happening.
Yeah, I don't think any of these subs helped, to be honest. Midway through the first half, Motherwell get the red card. There's not really much to see on this. It was probably the clearest red card you'll likely see. I think the only discussion point for me is, how did the referee not give it in the first instance and award a yellow and wait for VAR to correct his decision?
Because that's the way they operate. They make a decision, and if they're not right, somebody else will correct it. They're not big enough or bold enough or brave enough to actually make decisions, because they're frightened in case they're proven wrong with VAR. Instead of that, they'll make the wrong decision because it keeps them, it gives them an out. It gives them a get out of jail card and let somebody else make a decision, and then they'll just swap cards over and say, "Well, I wasn't quite sure." I mean, it's just they're spineless, absolutely spineless. There's nothing else to describe them. They are, it's verging on cowardice. They know, well, I think that was a foul, but I'll just go with yellow, and somebody will come in and say, no, it should have been a red, and then I'll get away with it, rather than looking at it and saying, no, that was definitely a red. And even if it was a red, and somebody on high says, no, have another look at that. If you I think it's too easy for referees to hide behind the decisions of VAR now. Games are being re-refereed. We're getting to a stage now, why don't you just put all the officials in a box and give them televisions and keep them away from the actual playing area, because none of them are willing to make a decision on the field.
Yeah, I think that's probably what we all feared with VAR, is that referees are now using it as a crutch. They kind of don't have to make controversial decisions on the field because they know they can always fall back to VAR. We mentioned subs. Now, for me, one of the most bizarre sub of the game that Danny Rowe made was on the 75th minute. He brought off Kusama, who wasn't having a good game by any stretch, but he chose to bring on Fernandez and go to a back three. Now, to me, at this point, Motherwell are already down to 10 men. To me, at this point, this sends out all the wrong signals in terms of, we're just going to camp in here for the last 15 minutes and try and hold what we have. And that just gave Motherwell the advantage, even with a man down. It gave them the initiative because they knew that we were just going to sit in and try and see this out. Do you think Danny Rowe's seemingly natural conservatism is going to prove costly? Because to me, in that situation, it was a vivid opportunity to try and kill the game off, bring on maybe a Skov Olsen or more creative player to try and go and get the second goal while they're down to 10 men and really kill the game off. But it seems like Danny Rowe's got a natural conservatism, particularly when it comes to away games. We saw it against Hibs as well for me, where he doesn't seem to, for fear of risking, almost going too attacking, his more natural instinct is to be a bit more defensive. When at Rangers, you really need to go out and win games rather than try not to lose them.
Well, I mean, while we're talking about Danny Rowe, the whole thing about him saying or seemingly lacking the understanding that a point at Fir Park is never a good result for Rangers. Coming out and saying, well, if we'd had the chance of that, we would have taken it before. No, you wouldn't. You go out there to win games. That's the first strike against them. The second strike against them is that not only does he think a point is a good result and doesn't change the game, is you're right, the substitution that is made. Now, when it came to caution and conservatism and pragmatism, Walter Smith had it in abundance as well. The thing was, though, Walter Smith was an extremely good football coach, and he understood how you attack teams or how you get an advantage over teams. And if a team goes down to 10 men, you don't pull a winger off and stick in and go 3 at the back and stick on another defender. If that winger's tired, you put on another attacking player and stretch the game. You make the game as wide as possible. You don't narrow the game down so Motherwell can attack through the middle and all you're doing is covering three spaces at centre back. I just thought that was a defeatist attitude and not really what I would have expected from Rowe. He's impressed me at times, but I just thought there was a bit of naivety about that. And actually, he actually looked as if he was somebody who wasn't chasing a title. He actually looked as if he was somebody who was trying to take 3 points to stave off relegation rather than getting 3 points to go for a title.
Yeah, and maybe that's because that's where he's came from. He was at Sheffield Wednesday, and that's probably what he would have done down there in that situation. That would have been his natural reaction, is to try and hold on to what you have. Whereas
he would have probably sold a player at half time at Sheffield Wednesday, to be honest.
Well, yeah, potentially, but we do concede the late equaliser. Now, for me, this whole game week was an exact kind of picture of it. Felt like a movie I'd seen before. I don't know what you thought. We concede the late equaliser while others score the late winners, and I know one game doesn't make or break a league title, right? I think, but to me this just felt like, yeah, this is a movie we've seen before. I felt this feeling before, and it generally never ends well. I don't know what you felt.
It doesn't, put it this way, it doesn't help when you're chasing a championship flag. As I've touched upon, and you've said, it's almost like Rangers tried to play some sort of rope-a-dope tactics. We'll just soak up and absorb whatever pressure we're put under. As I said right at the start, this Rangers team, whether they play with 2 centre-backs or 3 centre-backs or 5 at the back or whatever it is, they are not good enough to actually hold out and actually defend what they've actually got. And I think you saw that with the goal. Motherwell put a ball into the area. You cannot say, oh, they put it into the danger area, or it was a well sculpted move. It was a hit and hope ball into the penalty box, and Rangers made it for them. First of all, you've got a full back that doesn't know where the guy is around him and gets a header in, and then I think it was Suter in the middle, actually just ball watching, no actually defending or picking anybody up. And, again, I go back to what I said. That's a kind of, for somebody that's as many international caps and is seen as being one of the senior partners currently within, the defensive setup at Rangers, that was just criminal. Motherwell got a goal. Rangers actually have to be thankful that they were down to 10 men and didn't really chase the game late on, because the Rangers could have lost it and left Motherwell without any points. But it was, you're right in saying, I've seen this movie before. You always knew what to expect. And this whole thing, Hearts do it. Celtic have done it. Chase the game late on, score goals, get a win, or save a game. Rangers seem incapable of that. Wasn't always that way. You all remember late goals that Rangers have scored under, Alex McLeish and Walter Smith and Souness, and even further back into the 70s, how many games Rangers won, in the last 10 minutes when Jock Wallace was the manager, probably because they were super fit compared to the teams that were flagging round about them. But Rangers could score late goals. Just now, you are living in hope that Rangers don't concede a goal rather than scoring another 2 or 3. And it's hard not to say this could cost them. You honestly think after Wednesday night there might be more of this to come, and if that's the case, forget all notion of winning league championships. The fact that Rangers have got to make a flying start and not just score one goal, but then score maybe 2 and 3 to see them through the entire 90 minutes, because the last 10 minutes or 20 minutes is just, holding on for grim death, is not a good place to be. Not when other teams are actually almost specialising in scoring late on to take the spoils in a game. So if Wednesday was hard, that might just be a precursor of what else is to come.
Yeah. Now, a big part of this for me, and I don't know what you think, is, did you say, you've seen many Rangers teams over the title finishing line, but a big part of this for me is at this stage of the season now, when it's nip and tuck, when it's, very few points between the top three, comes down to mentality rather than who's got them, the best squad or who's got the better set of players. And for me, this team I don't see it in them. I don't know whether it's because they've not been over that line before. They've not got that experience of knowing what it's like to be in this title fight. Even Tavernier, who I think's the only player from previous title winning team, when we won that title in 55, there wasn't really a title race. We were, 15 points clear by Christmas. It was over and done. So you didn't have that nervousness, that pressure. And I just wonder how much of that is what we're lacking, and how much of that is what other teams have perhaps got that maybe we don't.
Yeah, I mean, but the thing I would say on that one, Brian, is Rangers have got more success in winning league titles than Hearts have. You know what I mean? Hearts seem to be able to do it and seem to have that resolve about them, that they've set their target, they've set their sights on what they want to achieve, and they want to win this league title. I was somebody who said, well, let's see where they are at Christmas. They're still there. They're beyond Christmas. They're still setting the pace. Everybody else is playing catch up, and you have to look at the resolve within that Rangers team, and I just don't think there's enough people willing to put that extra effort in, making the tackle, tracking back. I just don't see it. I think it's like something happens and it's like, oh, woe is me. The hands go into the hips, the heads goes down, they start shaking the heads, rather than knuckling down and saying, let's not put ourselves in that position. Let's do everything that's asked of us and a bit more, because that's the only way you're going to win a championship. The championship is what it is because it's played over an entire season. It's played over a vast number of matches. It's not a cup tie where anything can happen. It's not a cup game where over 90 minutes, a team might defend well or hold out against you and get a lucky goal. You accrue points in a league championship race over 38 games or whatever league you're playing in, 36 games or 42 games, whatever it is. And you do that, and that is a test of your abilities and capabilities over a long, hard season. And it means doing the same thing week in, week out, scoring enough goals, not conceding any goals, and putting your neck in the line every time you play. And I just don't see enough fight in this team. I can honestly say when Rangers used to train at Hamilton Crescent or down at Titwood, I used to see more fight on a Friday morning watching them training than I do in this team when they're actually chasing 3 points. And that says, for me, that says everything. And people say, oh, you can't dwell in the past. Actually, it was quite good dwelling in the past because you actually saw a Rangers team that were capable of winning things, unlike this bunch just now.
Yeah, you mentioned Hearts there, obviously. They come to Ibrox on Sunday. We've left ourselves now with no more margin for error. Even a win on Wednesday night, we still couldn't really be affording any slip-ups. Is this win or bust now for you?
Of course it is. The thing with Rangers is because of what happened on Wednesday night, they blew their advantage, and the advantage was they had Hearts coming on Sunday. Now, the biggest way to do damage to your rivals and your opposition is to actually beat them when you play them. You cannot rely on other people. Rangers have allowed that key card to float out the window by only getting a point at Motherwell when they really should have been winning. And if they'd won that game and then taken on Hearts and beaten Hearts, the whole landscape of this title race and this title run-in would have been totally different. Instead of that, Rangers, it would still have been a must-win game playing against Hearts, regardless of what happened on Wednesday. But it's now become crucial that Rangers take a win because nothing else will do. If Hearts disappeared out of Glasgow with a point, or worse still, 3 points, it's dead and buried. It's gone. It's over. There's no more wriggle room. And all of that wriggle room evaporated basically with the antics of a team that decided we can just sit back and absorb the pressure that Motherwell put us under. And they failed miserably. And that was the players, and I have to say on this occasion, the coach. The coach gave out negative vibes right through that game. In his press conference afterwards, when he said, they're a good team, getting a point, it's not the worst thing in the world. Yes, it is. Until such times as he actually realises that a point at Motherwell in the middle of February isn't a good point. That's you losing two, especially when you've played yourself back into the title race. And and I go back to what you were saying about the pressure. It's almost like when Rangers were umpteen points behind and languishing in the bottom half of the table and all the rest of it. It was easy to play. It was easy to beat teams. It was easy to win. No, all of a sudden they come under a bit of scrutiny. And once again, not for the first time, and certainly, you can go back almost near enough a decade now and look at Rangers teams that have just folded when they're under pressure. I mean, I don't know how you instill urgency into people. I don't know how you instill a bit of backbone and a bit of fight into players. You're signing them like that. You must know what they're like. Don't expect them to change, into suddenly being real, real characters and loads of doggedness when it comes to how they perform. It's not there to start with. they just revert to type. And I think there's too many revert to a type that you really don't want in your team when you're actually trying to chase trophies.
Yeah. After the reaction we've seen to the team news against Motherwell, do you expect that we'll see the majority, if not all, of the new signings start on Sunday?
Well, what's the point of signing them in January? What's the point of signing them in the transfer window? I mean, is it a case of, let's show people who say we've not got any money, let's spend the money and let's not play them. I mean, seriously, if you're bringing guys in and spending money bringing them in, you're looking for these people to give you an uplift. If Danny Rowe then brings these guys in and doesn't know how to utilise them or how to use them, or isn't willing to take a chance on them, why the hell are you spending money on them? You know, there are certain things that I struggle to get my head around. If you're buying players and you're specifically buying players that you want to do a job for you, then you have to give them a chance and you have to play them. It's a bit like getting to this stage in the season and saying, over the Hearts game, we'll try and see our way and play our way through this game because I want to keep some of these players for the Hearts game. No, that's not the way to play it. You put out your best team, and the guys, whether they're tired, fatigued, carrying knocks, carrying niggles, you put out the team, the best team that you can, and get those 3 points. And then once that's finished, you spend the next 3-4 days patching them up, try to coax them. Yeah, you're still fit, you still got it in you, and send them out again and tell them to do the exact same. You know, I just, you know, I don't like the way football's gone, and you know, call me a dinosaur and all the rest of it. Because you've got to look after player welfare and you've got to look after players and don't let them get too fatigued, so pick up injuries. Is football suddenly harder now than it was 20, 30, 40 years ago? People say, it's quicker and they're more athletic. All right, so they're more athletic. But back then, people were actually kicking you to stop you. Not trying to run past you. They were just booting you up in the air. Tell me that's easier than what it is now. No. So you play in the here and now. You try to take the points. You try to win the games now, and then worry about how you're going to, you know, patch your team up for the next time. Because sure enough, you're going to need your best players next time, and need your best players, you know, between now and the end of the season, regardless.
Yeah, one of the things that's kind of concerning me with Danny Rowe, I don't want to criticise him too much because he has done well in the main since he came in, but in his press conference again today, and he's done it a few times, is he keeps mentioning how we've came back from 13 points, and you know, he keeps mentioning where we've came from. For me, it's no longer about that now. Now, yes, we've got ourselves in this position, but now you need to go in and win it. That's where, for me, that's where you kind of need to understand that you're at Rangers now. Maybe at Sheffield Wednesday, you know, that was fine, that would be a success. But at Rangers, finishing second, even coming back from 13 points to finish second, that's not a success, that's still a failure. Now's the time to go and win it. And my fear is he's kind of almost, because he's such a young coach, he's maybe a bit of naivety there.
Yeah.
In terms of the message he's sending out.
Yeah, the way I would look at it is that when you took over, Rangers were losers. You have managed to put them into a position where the potential is there for them to become winners, but you're still not a winner. And if you're not a winner, you've got to be a loser. So it doesn't matter if you're 5 points, 10 points, 15 points behind whoever wins it, you've still not won it. You know what I mean? You pick up gold, silver, and bronze. You're first, second, and third. In the real world, that's how you're gauged. You're not a winner and a second winner or third winner. You're not a winner. So get yourself into a position, and honestly, maybe it's down to an age thing. I don't know. But for me, if you manage to get all those points back on Celtic and on Hearts, you then basically say, right, we now recalibrate We've done the hard job getting ourselves back into the title fight. Let's recalibrate and let's go again. Don't pat ourselves in the back for getting into this position, because it doesn't really matter. It does not matter. All you've done is repair the damage that Russell Martin and these players actually did before you come in. And nobody's going to give you come the player of the year, and the Rangers awards at the end of the season. Nobody's going to pin a medal on you for making Rangers look better than they actually were when Russell Martin left. That doesn't win you anything. The only thing that matters is silverware and the trophies with your ribbons on them. And until such times as you do that, then you're always going to be second best or third best. The problem with Rangers is collectively over a number of years with different managers, they've always been judged on, oh, they came close, oh, they did this, they did that. No, in the last couple of weeks, Clement's done a great job at Norwich. Aye, they've got nothing to lose. Of course he's going to do a great job. He's jumping a trapdoor when he arrives. He takes him up the table a bit. Fantastic. Am I going to judge him in that? No, I'm going to judge him in the fact that Rangers had 2 games 2 seasons ago, and if they won both those games, they went top of the table, and he could not get enough out of the Rangers team and those Rangers players to actually go and get those 2 victories. So for me, Clement, he won the League Cup. He won the League Cup, somebody else's team basically. And to defeat that, my own argument, if that was somebody else's team and they were successful, they'd been winning a lot more than just League Cups. But the fact of the matter was that he came in, he started on a high, it deteriorated. Hence the reason why he's down in the land of turkeys.
Yeah. Now, if we wanted to end on somewhat of a positive note, Stuart, does Sunday represent an opportunity for this team to almost prove everyone wrong? We've spoken about tonight about, I think neither of the two of us kind of think that this team's necessarily got the required mentality or fight for this title race. But on Sunday, they've got a pretty good opportunity to prove us all wrong and really, really put a bit of a statement down.
Yeah, a Chimity hat trick, maybe even in the first half, and a confident 4-0 or 5-0 win. Yeah, that would make a real statement. Are they capable of it? Who knows? Are they capable of winning? Probably yes. But, even if Rangers won this game, and I might be alone in this, if Rangers beat Hearts on Sunday, your heart will be in your mouth the next time they take to the field, because you just don't have any confidence in what they're capable of doing.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think most are probably more confident about Hearts at Ibrox than they potentially are about Livingston away the next weekend, to be honest. And that probably says a lot about this team and where we are just now. Before we go, Stuart, have you got a score prediction?
I'll always say 1-0 to Rangers. That way I'm never disappointed. Listen, if it'd been 1-0 on Wednesday night, it'd been a fantastic result according to Danny Rowe. Okay, so you get 3 points and a clean sheet, and you're still in the title race. 1-0, beat Hearts, take the points, means they lose another game, means they're a bit closer to them. Let's not set our stall out there. It's a bit too, adventurous, or it's a bit you're living in sort of fantasy land. 1-0, 2-0 would be fantastic. But right at this minute in time, forgetting goal differences and all the rest of it, all you're wanting to do is beat the opposition, and that way is how you win a title.
Yeah, but I don't know if my heart can take it. A 1-0, to be honest. That's yeah. I don't know. I'll take any win at the minute, but that's going to be that sounds like an every one. I don't know if I can take that, to be honest. But
I hadn't thought about it that way. I wasn't care when the goal came or how it scored. I was forgetting you were of a nervous disposition there, and we really would want 2 in the first 8 minutes.
Yes, please. I want 3 in the first half. I want it all done in the first 45. Thank you very much. Yeah, I want to enjoy my half-time pie. Right, I think we'll call it time there. All that's left for me to do is thank my guest, Stuart. Thanks as always.
Thanks again.
As well as being live tonight, the show will be available on all podcasting platforms, iTunes, Spotify, Acast and Stitcher. We'll be back on Sunday. It's John and Jamie, and they'll be reviewing all the action from Sunday's match. Until next time, bye for now.